As the war in Gaza nears its 2-year mark, Israel finds itself increasingly isolated. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has openly acknowledged this kind of isolation, unlike any in the nation's recent history. What led to this moment and what might it mean for Israel's future, its economy, and global diplomacy? Let's unpack the narrative, challenge assumptions, and connect the dots. On September 15, 2025, Prime Minister Netanyahu delivered a rare and candid assessment at a finance ministry conference. Israel is facing a form of isolation that could last for years and may require fundamental changes to its economic and defense strategies. Netanyahu stated that Israel's economy must develop autarkic traits, increase self-reliance, and reduce dependence on foreign trade. He explained, "We must advance our arms industry. We will be a fusion of Athens and a super Sparta. We have no alternative, at least for the foreseeable future, as we confront these attempts at isolation." This statement marks a significant departure from his previous economic philosophy. Netanyahu has long championed open markets and global trade. Now, with mounting embargoes and bans, the need for in-house defense manufacturing and a shift away from international partnerships is clear. The Gaza conflict, which began in October 2023 after a Hamas attack that killed 1,200 people in southern Israel and led to the abduction of 250, continues to elicit global outrage. Accusations of genocide and disproportionate military force have drawn widespread condemnation from the United Nations and multiple governments. Western Europe is now at the center of diplomatic friction. The UK Ministry of Defense barred Israeli officers from attending its Royal College of Defense Studies. Spain and other nations have implemented arms embargoes and threatened or enacted sanctions. A growing movement to recognize Palestinian statehood is taking shape at the United Nations General Assembly. Netanyahu's critics, both domestic and international, argue these circumstances are the direct result of government policies. Opposition leader Yair Lapid called the isolation the result of Netanyahu's erroneous and ineffective policies. Gadi Eisenkot, the former chief of the Israeli military, warned there will be no second opportunity to rectify the harm inflicted by him and his associates who have abandoned the hostages and isolated Israel internationally. Netanyahu does not see this isolation mainly as the consequence of Israeli policies, but rather as a coordinated campaign. He pointed directly at China and Qatar, accusing them of orchestrating a propaganda blitz in Western media, using social media to erode Israel's legitimacy. He claimed that China and Qatar are leveraging vast resources to influence global perceptions. These campaigns, enabled by mass Muslim migration and shifting European demographics, are pushing governments in Western Europe to cancel defense deals with Israel. Qatar's support for networks like Al Jazeera serves to amplify anti-Israel narratives. Despite these accusations, Netanyahu assured his audience that Israel retains strong support from the United States, which has resisted calls to limit arms shipments and cautioned against isolating Israel entirely. Netanyahu's new stance is not just political. It's economic. Israel must prepare for blockades, especially in defense industries. This could mean developing domestic capacity to produce arms and military technology, possibly at significant cost. Investing heavily in media and social channels to shape public opinion abroad, a kind of influence operation designed to counter what Netanyahu sees as coordinated international hostility. While the finance minister and Netanyahu both point to rising stock markets and lower inflation as signs of economic resilience, others warn that isolation could trigger long-term challenges, declining foreign investment, slowed technological exchange, and limited market access. The Prime Minister's Athens and Sparta metaphor invokes both intellectual advancement and martial prowess. The challenge: can Israel sustain innovation, growth, and security in a world where international doors are closing? Critics within Israel are vocal. They argue the pivot toward self-reliance and defensive isolation damages Israel's core identity as a startup nation, a hub for global innovation and cooperation. Tel Aviv's stock market fell following Netanyahu's comments, reflecting investor anxiety about the uncertainty ahead. Political opponents say the government's hardline policies have led to a crisis of legitimacy. Israel is no longer assured of automatic Western support, and long-standing alliances are under threat. Erdogan warned isolation is not destiny, it is the outcome of choices. Hostility is too. Internationally, the split is deepening. The U.S. stands by Israel, but most Western European states are reevaluating their relationship, and Asian powers like China are exerting growing influence through economic and media channels. So, what does Israel's future hold? Netanyahu insists that Israel will break through isolation, wagering that a mix of economic adaptation, media investment, and military self-sufficiency will reverse the tide. Yet questions remain. Can Israel thrive without open access to world markets and research ecosystems? Will increased militarization and economic autarky create long-term security or SAP innovation and prosperity? Is a global consensus emerging around Palestinian statehood, and how will Israel respond diplomatically? Could China and Qatar's media campaigns permanently reshape Western perceptions? Let us know in the comments, how do you see Israel breaking through isolation and what global consequences might follow?